I'm Ethan, 34, and apparently the rich one in the family. At least that's what my sister, Amanda, likes to remind me every time she runs out of money, which, somehow, is always. She says it like it's an insult, like I stumbled into success by accident instead of working 70-hour weeks for most of my 20s. I'm not some tech billionaire or hedge fund guy. I own a small but successful architectural firm. I live comfortably, yes, but I still check prices at the grocery store. Meanwhile, Amanda hasn't worked a steady job since 2017. She's the kind of person who treats being a parent like a full-time career, but with none of the responsibility part, just the I deserve help because I have kids part. She's got two daughters, 8 and 10, who are genuinely sweet kids. But Amanda uses them as props for sympathy, or more accurately, leverage. Whenever she needs something, she wraps her demand in a guilt trip about her little girl's future. My parents don't help the situation. They've always enabled her. They'll say things like, Amanda's just struggling right now, as if right now hasn't lasted 8 years. My mom, especially, has this obsession with family unity, which, in her dictionary, means I'm supposed to pay for everyone's comfort while pretending not to notice how unbalanced everything is. The first real blow-up started a few weeks before Christmas. I was at home finishing up some design revisions when Amanda showed up, unannounced as usual, her heels clicking across my hardwood floors like gunshots. She had this manic energy, that mix of fake cheerfulness and real desperation. Ethan, she said, dropping her designer tote onto my counter. Good news. You can help the girls have a great year. I looked up from my laptop. I thought they already were having a great year. She smiled, but it was the kind of smile that never reaches her eyes. Then she slid a sheet of paper across the counter, an actual printed invoice. It looked like something from a small business. I scanned it. Private school tuition, 2 new iPads, a dance camp, and something labeled miscellaneous educational enrichment. The total was just over $14,000. I laughed, thinking it was a joke. You can't be serious. I'm completely serious, she said, crossing her arms. You make good money, Ethan. You don't have kids. You don't have a mortgage. You can afford it. I blinked. That's not how generosity works. Oh, stop acting broke, she snapped, instantly dropping the pretense. You live in a 3-bedroom house by yourself. You don't even have a family to spend on. You owe it to the people who actually do. Owe it, I repeated. My jaw tightened. Amanda, I've helped you plenty of times. Remember the car payment I covered? The rent you borrowed last summer. She rolled her eyes. That was different. Things were tight then. They're always tight, I said quietly. Her voice rose. So you're saying no? I nodded. Yeah, I'm saying no. The look she gave me could have frozen lava. You've changed, she said coldly, snatching the invoice back. You used to care about family. After she stormed out, I just sat there, staring at the empty counter. It wasn't even about the money. It was the entitlement. The way she assumed I existed as her safety net. And deep down, I already knew Mom would take her side. A few days later, that suspicion became fact. I was dropping off gifts for my parents when I overheard their conversation through the kitchen doorway. Amanda's voice carried easily. He's being so dramatic about it, she said. It's not like I'm asking for a yacht. Just help for his nieces. He's loaded, Mom. He can pay for my kids. Mom sighed. That tired, performative sigh she does when she wants to sound wise. You know your brother. He acts tough, but he always caves. Especially around the holidays. He hates conflict. Amanda laughed. Then we'll make him cave at Christmas dinner. Mom chuckled back. Good idea. He'll fold when everyone's watching. He won't want to look selfish. Something inside me went quiet. It wasn't anger yet, more like a numb, sinking calm. The kind you get when you finally see something you've suspected all along. I backed away from the doorway before they noticed me, left the gifts by the door, and drove home in silence. My phone buzzed with a group text from Mom. Can't wait for Christmas dinner, Ethan. Everyone's so excited to come to your place this year. Right. The fancy dinner I'd agreed to host. The one where I was apparently supposed to fund Amanda's guilt trip. That night, I sat in my living room, lights off except for the faint glow from the fireplace. I thought about every time I'd said yes when I wanted to say no. These small favors, the temporary loans, it's just until next month. Each one chipped away at a boundary I never enforced. Maybe they were right. Maybe I did always cave. But not this time. I started making new plans. Quietly. Strategically. I didn't tell anyone, not even Dad, who usually tries to stay neutral in these things. Over the next week, while Amanda was busy texting me reminders about the dinner menu, remember, the girls don't eat gluten or dairy anymore, so get something special. I booked a flight. Destination, Reykjavik, Iceland. Departure, December 24th. The ticket confirmation email popped up on my screen like a spark of electricity. It felt good, like reclaiming something I hadn't even realized I'd lost. My peace, my independence, maybe even a little self-respect. I still went through the motions, of course. I let the group chat stay active. I let Mom remind me to dress nicely. We're representing the family. I let Amanda send me links to decorations she thought I should buy to make it classy. I responded with vague thumbs-up emojis. Meanwhile, I packed. By the time Christmas Eve arrived, my house looked perfectly ready for a family gathering. The dining table was set. The fridge was stocked. There was even a roast defrosting, just to sell the illusion. I knew they'd show up early. They always did, expecting to help after everything was already done. But this year, when they knocked, they'd find nothing but silence. Because at 5:47 p.m., while they stood outside my door in their fancy coats and fake smiles, I'd be boarding a plane, first-class seat, window view, the northern lights waiting somewhere in the sky ahead. And as the plane taxied down the runway, I'd post a single photo to the family group chat, my boarding pass and a view of the wing with the caption, "Merry Christmas from Iceland." I can only imagine the chaos that followed, the confusion, the phone calls, the outrage. But that's a story for the next part. Because that night wasn't just about revenge. It was about breaking a cycle, one that had been running my whole life. And I had no idea how far my family would go once they realized I wasn't coming back. When I landed in Reykjavik that night, the air was so cold it burned a little when I inhaled. It felt clean, sharp, and strangely liberating, like the first breath after surfacing from deep underwater. I remember standing by the glass wall of Keflavik Airport, looking out at the snow swirling under the floodlights, thinking, this is the quiet I've been chasing for years. My phone, however, was anything but quiet. 36 missed calls in the first hour, 8 voicemails, 24 text messages, alternating between confusion, anger, and fake concern. The first few were almost amusing. Mom, Ethan? We're outside your house. Where are you? Amanda, you better not be late. The kids are freezing. Mom, 5 minutes later, is everything okay? This isn't funny. Amanda, you think this is cute? Making us wait out here? Grow up. By the time I got to my hotel, the messages had escalated to full-on panic. Mom, Ethan, I'm worried. Are you hurt? Please call me. Amanda, wow? Just wow. Do you have any idea how embarrassing this is for me? Everyone's hungry, and you're playing some kind of power trip? I didn't reply to any of them. Instead, I ordered Icelandic lamb stew, opened a window to feel the Arctic air on my face, and listened to nothing but silence. But back home, the storm was just beginning. The next morning, my phone buzzed nonstop again. They'd clearly realized I wasn't hurt, just gone. Mom's tone had shifted from worried to furious. Mom, I cannot believe you would do this to your family on Christmas Eve. Your nieces were crying. Then Amanda followed up with one of the most entitled messages I'd ever seen. Amanda, I showed the girls your picture. They said, Uncle Ethan doesn't love us anymore. Hope that feels good. It didn't. Not because of guilt, because she used her kids like that. Weaponized them. Like always. That was Amanda's gift, in a twisted way. She could spin any situation into her own victim narrative. I used to fall for it. I used to think she really believed the things she said, that she was misunderstood, unlucky, struggling. But over time, I realized she enjoyed playing the martyr. It gave her power. And now that I'd broken the pattern, she was losing control. While I explored Reykjavik's Christmas markets and watched the northern lights flicker over the dark sky, my family was imploding back home. Friends started texting me things like, your sister just posted something on Facebook. Are you okay? I looked it up. Sure enough, there it was, a long, passive-aggressive post on her page. Some people forget the true meaning of family. Imagine abandoning your loved ones on Christmas Eve for a vacation. Money changes people. Sad. She'd attached a stock photo of a broken heart over a Christmas tree. The comments were a flood of sympathy. That's awful. Amanda, stay strong. You deserve better. My mom even commented underneath, I raised him better than this. That one stung. Not because it was harsh, but because it was exactly what she'd always done. Publicly humiliate me when I didn't play her game. I didn't respond, but I saved screenshots of everything. Something told me I'd need them later. For the next few days, I disconnected completely. I hiked glaciers, soaked in the blue lagoon, watched the sky turn from indigo to white over mountains that looked carved from marble. It was the most peace I'd felt in years. But every night, I'd check my messages, and every night, I'd find another chapter of family drama waiting for me. At first, it was guilt. Mom, you embarrassed us. People at church are asking why we weren't with you. Then came the manipulation. Amanda, you left us stranded. Ethan, we had to eat fast food for Christmas. The girls cried themselves to sleep. Then, the classic, financial threats disguised as moral lectures. Mom, your father and I raised you to share your blessings. Don't forget who supported you before you made it. The truth? They hadn't supported me. They tolerated me. When I was putting myself through college, working nights, eating instant noodles, they were busy bailing out Amanda from credit card debt and applauding her for trying her best. I was just the quiet one who didn't need attention until I succeeded. Then suddenly, every dollar I earned was a family victory. The breaking point came a few days after I got back from Iceland. I hadn't told them I was home yet. I wanted time to breathe before walking into whatever storm awaited. But Mom found out somehow, probably from Amanda, who still tracked my social media like a hawk. She called. I let it ring 3 times before answering. Ethan, she said sharply. No hello. Do you have any idea what you did? I think I do, I said calmly. You humiliated your sister, she snapped. You humiliated me. Everyone was waiting, and you just, what? Ran off to Iceland like some spoiled child. Mom, I said, I told you both no weeks ago. You tried to guilt me into paying for Amanda's kids. You planned to ambush me at dinner. Don't act surprised. There was silence on the line. Then, coldly, so this is who you are now. Ungrateful. Ungrateful. I repeated. For what? For everything we did for you growing up. I laughed quietly. You mean when I bought my own car at 17? When I paid for my own college? Or when you told me to stop bragging after I got promoted? Watch your tone, she hissed. You think money makes you better than us? No, I said. But it means I don't have to let you use me anymore. She hung up without another word. That was the last time I heard her voice for weeks. But Amanda? She wasn't done. Oh, she was just getting started. 3 days later, I got an email from my firm's HR department. Apparently, Amanda had called pretending to be a concerned client, asking about my unethical business practices and hinting that I'd been embezzling money. She even used her friend's phone number to make it look legitimate. Luckily, HR recognized her name. I'd mentioned my sister in passing once when explaining why I never used family as clients. They flagged it immediately and looped me in. I was furious. Not even surprised, just furious. This wasn't just family drama anymore. She'd crossed into professional sabotage. I sent Amanda a short message. Don't ever contact my workplace again. This is your only warning. Her response came minutes later. You think you can cut us off? We're family, Ethan. You don't get to just walk away. You'll regret this. That line, you'll regret this, stuck with me. Because it wasn't a cry for help. It was a threat. And if there's one thing about Amanda, it's that she doesn't bluff. The next week, Dad called out of the blue. He never got involved in these things. He'd always been the quiet one, the let's keep the peace guy. So when his name popped up, I actually answered. Hey, Dad, I said. He sighed heavily. Your mother's been upset. I figured. I'm not taking sides, he said. But maybe you should just apologize. For the trip thing. I didn't do anything wrong, I said. I know, but you know how she is. It's easier to let it go than fight about it. That line summed up my entire childhood. It's easier to let it go. I took a deep breath. Dad, I love you. But I'm done being the one who always lets it go. There was a long pause. She's still your mother, he said quietly. Yeah, I said. And Amanda's still my sister. Doesn't mean I have to let them walk over me. He didn't argue, just sighed again and said, Take care of yourself, son. When I hung up, I realized something. For the first time, I actually meant it when I said I was done. But Amanda didn't accept done. Over the next month, she escalated in subtle, vindictive ways. Small but strategic. She'd message mutual friends with stories about how I'd abandoned the family. She told one of my clients, who also happened to go to her church, that I'd refused to pay back a loan she'd given me, which never existed. She even mailed a handwritten note to my office saying, Your success won't last if you build it on selfishness. It was psychotic, really, but methodical. Every move designed to chip away at my reputation, my calm, my boundaries. And yet, I stayed silent. I didn't lash out, didn't respond, didn't post a thing. Because for the first time, I wasn't playing defense. I was observing, waiting. And then, one evening in February, she made a mistake, a big one. I was having dinner with a colleague when I got a text from an unknown number, a screenshot of a message thread between Amanda and my mother. It read, "Amanda, he thinks he's untouchable, but I've got a plan. Mom, just don't go too far. Amanda, relax. He'll pay, one way or another." The number belonged to someone I didn't expect, my niece. The older one. She'd found the messages on her mom's iPad and sent them to me with a single line. "Uncle Ethan, please don't tell Mom. I just wanted you to know." That was the moment the calm inside me hardened into something colder. Because this wasn't just family manipulation anymore. It was a campaign. And I knew, absolutely knew, that if Amanda was planning something, she was going to regret it far more than I ever had. But that is when things really started to unravel. Because her plan, it wasn't just to humiliate me. It was to destroy something I'd built my entire life around. And when I found out how she planned to do it, I realized Christmas in Iceland had been nothing compared to the storm that was coming next. The message from my niece sat on my phone screen for a full minute before I moved. My fork was halfway to my mouth, but I didn't feel hungry anymore. My colleague noticed my face go pale and asked if everything was okay, but I just mumbled something about family drama and excused myself. Outside, the air was cold and heavy with rain, and I remember standing under the streetlight, scrolling through the screenshots over and over, like if I read them enough times, they'd change. "He'll pay, one way or another." That sentence looped in my head like a siren. Amanda wasn't just being petty anymore. She was scheming. And Mom, instead of shutting it down, was half encouraging it. "Just don't go too far," she'd said. Not stop. Not leave him alone. Just a soft boundary wrapped in cowardice. That night, I sat on my couch with every light off except the lamp by the window. I replayed the last few months. The invoice, the phone call, the Facebook post, the HR stunt. It all connected now. Each move was leading somewhere. She wasn't reacting. She was building up to something. I wanted to call her right then. To yell, to demand answers, to threaten legal action, anything. But I didn't. Instead, I texted my niece back. "Thank you for telling me. You did the right thing. Don't worry, I won't say anything." She didn't respond, but the little receipt popped up a few seconds later. The next week felt strangely calm, like the quiet before a storm. Work was busy, a new client, a big project. I tried to focus, but that sentence haunted me. "He'll pay." For what? For saying no? For finally having a spine? Then, one morning, it happened. I got a call from my accountant. He sounded uneasy. "Ethan," he said, "I got an email that looked like it was from you. It had your name, your email signature, even the logo of your firm. It said you wanted to transfer $48,000 to an educational foundation for a family donation." I was about to process it, but I decided to confirm first. My blood ran cold. "Send me that email," I said. When it arrived, I opened it immediately. It was my email address, except for one subtle difference. Instead of Ethan Mercer, it was Ethan Merker. 2 C's instead of 1. And the signature line was perfect. Even the font matched. Someone had replicated my entire professional identity: name, photo, layout, company branding. I scrolled down to see where the money was supposed to go. The account name, Bright Start Foundation. The note, for tuition aid for family dependents. My stomach dropped. Family dependents. Amanda. I immediately contacted my IT manager, who confirmed my worst suspicion. Whoever had done this had also created a fake domain registered under mercerdesignss.com 2 weeks earlier. They'd sent out emails to a handful of people connected to my firm, clients, partners, vendors, requesting donations in my name. In the span of 2 weeks, they'd sent over 30 emails. I sat there, numb, as my IT guy read through the domain records. Looks like whoever set this up used a prepaid card and a masked IP. Hard to trace, but we can file a report. I thanked him and hung up. My hands were shaking. I opened my personal email, and there it was, a message from Amanda, sent the same day. "You always say you care about your niece's future. Maybe now you'll finally prove it." No shame. No denial. Just arrogance. I called her immediately. She didn't answer. So I called again. Then again. Finally, on the fourth try, she picked up, sounding half amused. What? Amanda, I said quietly. What did you do? Relax, she said, like she was talking to a child. It was just an idea. I didn't actually take anything. You impersonated me, I said. You created a fake company email and tried to scam my clients. I was going to tell them it was a mistake, she said quickly. You're overreacting. Overreacting, I said, my voice rising. You committed fraud. Don't be dramatic, she snapped. I didn't get a dime. Besides, maybe if you weren't so stingy, I wouldn't have to get creative. That sentence hit like a slap. Amanda, I said slowly, you realize I could press charges. She laughed, actually laughed. You won't. You're too soft for that. You always have been. Then she hung up. I sat there, phone still to my ear, staring at the reflection of my face in the dark window. I didn't feel anger anymore, just a heavy, sick kind of disbelief. She'd actually done it. She'd tried to ruin me professionally, and she thought she could get away with it because I'd never fight back. The next day, I got an email from one of my biggest clients, a property developer I'd been working with for years. Hey Ethan, I got your message about the foundation donation. Happy to contribute. Just wanted to double check the bank info before sending. I called him immediately, explained everything, apologized profusely. Thankfully, he believed me, but I could hear the unease in his voice. Trust, once cracked, never fits back the same. That night, I called my mom. I don't know why. Maybe I still believed she'd finally see reason, that she'd be horrified when she found out what Amanda had done. She picked up after 2 rings. Mom, I said, my voice trembling. Amanda tried to scam my clients. She made fake emails using my name. She could have destroyed my business. There was a pause. Then, calmly, I'm sure she didn't mean it like that. I blinked. What? She's been under a lot of pressure, Mom said, as if that excused everything. Raising 2 kids alone isn't easy. Maybe she made a mistake, but she was probably just trying to help her girls. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Mom, this isn't a mistake. This is fraud. She could go to prison. Don't be ridiculous, Mom said sharply. She's family, Ethan. You don't call the police on family. I didn't call the police, I said. But maybe I should. You wouldn't dare, she said, suddenly defensive. After everything we've done for you. That line again. The eternal manipulation. I interrupted her. What you've done for me, Mom, is nothing compared to the damage you're letting happen now. Watch your tone, she snapped. You sound ungrateful. I almost laughed. Ungrateful? For what? For having a sister who tries to ruin my life? For a mother who defends her no matter what? Ethan, I'm done, I said. Don't call me again. Then I hung up. That night, for the first time in my life, I blocked my own mother's number. I sat there afterward, phone in hand, and felt empty, like someone had cut a rope I'd been gripping for too long. But Amanda wasn't done. A week later, I got a call from a journalist, a local reporter who sometimes covered small business features. Hi, Mr. Mercer, she said politely. We're running a story about alleged misuse of charity donations tied to your company. Do you have a comment? My heart sank. She sent me a link, a post from a community Facebook group. Local business owner accused of exploiting fake charity. There was a screenshot of one of the scam emails, the one with my name and signature. Someone had leaked it. And at the top of the thread, in the comments section, was a familiar name. Amanda Lewis. This makes me so sad. He used to be such a good brother. That was the moment it hit me. She wasn't trying to get money anymore. She was trying to destroy me. Publicly. I could almost picture her, typing that comment with that smug smirk she always wore when she thought she'd outsmarted someone. She wanted me cornered, humiliated, maybe even desperate enough to pay her just to make it stop. But instead of calling her, I called my lawyer. We spent the next few hours drafting a cease and desist letter, gathering every screenshot, every message, every post. My lawyer was calm but firm. This goes beyond defamation, he said. If she doesn't stop, we pursue criminal charges. I agreed. But inside, I wasn't calm. I wasn't even angry anymore. I was betrayed in a way I couldn't put into words. It's one thing to have a sibling who takes advantage of your kindness. It's another to have one who deliberately tries to destroy your life, and does it with your own mother silently cheering from the sidelines. The next day, my lawyer sent the letter. Amanda responded publicly, of course, another post, claiming I was attacking a single mom and using lawyers to silence my family. Her friends flooded the comments with sympathy. "So sorry, Amanda. Stay strong. Some people change when they get money." And then, the final blow. Someone posted a screenshot of my company's Google reviews. Overnight, there were dozens of one-star ratings, all posted within hours of each other, all saying the same thing: scammer, dishonest, untrustworthy. Anonymous profiles. I didn't need proof to know where they came from. Amanda had found a way to weaponize the internet itself. That night, I couldn't sleep. I just sat at my desk, scrolling through the chaos, my reflection staring back at me from the dark computer screen. I thought about the little girl who used to follow me around the yard, begging me to play tag. The sister I used to share cereal with when our parents fought. The one who'd promised, when we were kids, that we'd always have each other's backs. That version of her didn't exist anymore. Maybe she never had. And that was the night something in me changed completely. Because up until that moment, I'd been reacting, defending, explaining, hoping for decency. But now, I understood what I was dealing with. This wasn't just greed. It was malice. And the one mistake Amanda made, the only one, was assuming I'd stay passive forever. Because if she wanted a war, she was about to get one. And this time, I wouldn't be the one paying the price. The morning after the review bomb, I woke up to 30 new emails, half of them from clients, the rest from strangers calling me every name under the sun. "How could you scam people? I trusted your company. You're disgusting." Every ping felt like a hammer striking the same spot in my chest. I opened one from a longtime client, a man I'd known for years, who'd watched me build my business from scratch. "Ethan, I'm not sure what's going on, but until you clear this up, we'll have to suspend our partnership. I'm sorry." Just like that, $120,000 in upcoming projects evaporated. It wasn't about the money, not really. It was about the foundation I'd built, piece by piece, being pulled out from under me. My business was my life's work. Every late night, every risk, every rejection I'd fought through, and now it was being undone by a few clicks from my own sister. I stared at my computer screen until it went black from inactivity. Then I just sat there, listening to the faint hum of the heater, realizing that for the first time in my adult life, I had no idea what to do next. Over the next week, things got worse. News travels fast, faster when it's false. The local community page where Amanda had stirred the drama was now filled with comments from people who'd never met me, all feeding off each other's outrage. One even suggested I should be reported to the state board. And as much as I hated to admit it, Amanda was winning. She'd managed to paint herself as the single mom standing up to her greedy, selfish brother, and the internet loves an underdog. She knew exactly how to twist the narrative, how to sound heartbroken instead of hateful. "Money changes people," she'd posted again one night. "All I wanted was for my daughters to have a fair chance. But I guess family loyalty doesn't mean much anymore." That one got hundreds of likes. It wasn't until a local blogger wrote a think piece about wealthy relatives exploiting family ties, clearly inspired by her post, that I realized the scale of it. My name wasn't mentioned, but the details were all there. Everyone who knew me would recognize the story. And then, the calls started. Mom first, of course. I didn't answer. Then Dad. Then my aunt, who opened with, "Ethan, why are you attacking your sister online? She says you sent her lawyers after her." I hung up. Then came the texts. Hundreds of them. From cousins, family friends, even old classmates. Most were passive-aggressive. A few were downright cruel. That's when I did something I'd never done before. I deleted my social media accounts. Not deactivated, deleted. Gone. I didn't make an announcement. No dramatic goodbye post. Just silence. That night, my apartment was so quiet I could hear the clock ticking. I poured myself a glass of whiskey, sat by the window, and stared out at the city lights. I remember thinking how strange it felt to be completely disconnected from everyone. No notifications, no buzzing, no noise. It should have felt peaceful, but it didn't. It felt like exile. The next morning, my lawyer called. "Ethan," he said, "we'll get through this, but you need to stay quiet. Don't engage online. Don't call her. Let me handle the damage control." I agreed, even though every part of me wanted to scream. Then, as if things weren't bad enough, my landlord called. "Hey man," he said awkwardly. "I'm not trying to get in the middle of anything, but a few tenants have been complaining about, well, those flyers." "Flyers?" He hesitated. "Yeah, Someone's been dropping them in the mail slots. They've got your company logo on them. Looks like some charity scam thing. People think it's connected to that online story. I went downstairs and checked my building's mail area. Sure enough, there were dozens of glossy flyers plastered everywhere. Each one had my face, my firm's name, and a message. Mercer Designs, profiting from fake charity schemes. It was surreal. I stood there, holding one of them, my hands shaking. I tore them all down. Every last one. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat at my desk, scrolling through old photos, back when things were simple. Me and Amanda as kids at the lake. Her laughing, splashing water at me. Mom on the shore with her camera. How do you even begin to process that the same person who once cried on your shoulder after a bad breakup now wants to watch your life burn? I spent the next few days in survival mode. My lawyer filed defamation notices, sent takedown requests, contacted the hosting sites. It was like trying to plug leaks in a sinking ship, slow, exhausting, and never-ending. Meanwhile, business calls kept coming in, not to offer support, but to pause collaborations until the situation was resolved. By the end of the month, I'd lost half my clients. And that's when the silence hit me again. The same silence from Iceland, but heavier now. Back then, it was freedom. Now, it was isolation. I stopped answering the phone. I stopped checking emails after 6 p.m. I stopped caring really. Every morning, I'd stare at the mirror before shaving and barely recognize the guy looking back. The one who used to love his work, who smiled easily, who believed in second chances. He looked tired, hollow. There were moments, late at night, when I'd start to wonder if Amanda had been right all along. Maybe I had changed. Maybe success had turned me cold. But then I'd remember that I wasn't the one who started this war. I was just the one finally refusing to surrender. Still, it hurt, deeply, to realize how few people stood by me when things turned ugly. Even my dad, who'd always said he wanted to stay neutral, eventually stopped calling. Mom probably convinced him I was toxic. I went weeks without hearing from anyone except my lawyer. Until one night, a knock came at my door. When I opened it, I froze. It was my niece, the older one, the one who'd warned me before. She looked small in her oversized hoodie, eyes red from crying. "Uncle Ethan," she whispered, "can I come in?" I nodded and let her inside. She clutched her phone like it was a lifeline. "Mom doesn't know I'm here," she said quickly. "She's been saying awful things about you. But I saw her laptop today. She's planning something worse." My heart dropped. Worse than what she's already done. She nodded, tears welling up. She was talking to Grandma. She said she's going to teach you a lesson, something about your firm's finances. She showed Grandma some papers and said she was going to make everyone see the truth. "What papers?" I asked. "I don't know," she said. "They looked official." She said something about taxes and fake donations. Fake donations. My stomach twisted. She was going to fabricate financial evidence, probably tie it to that fake charity email scheme she started. And the worst part? She'd get Mom to back her up. That was the first time I felt genuine fear. Not anger, not sadness, but the bone-deep kind of fear that comes when you realize your enemy isn't just reckless, they're intelligent in all the wrong ways. I put a hand on her shoulder. "Thank you for telling me, kiddo. You did the right thing." She nodded, sniffled, and looked at me. "Why is she like this? You were always nice to her." I didn't have an answer. After she left, I sat in the dark again. My house felt colder than usual. The clock ticked louder. Every creak in the floor sounded like a threat. I opened my laptop and started going through my company's financials, my personal statements, my emails, checking for anything she could twist. I even called my accountant again, just to make sure nothing had been accessed. He assured me everything looked fine, but I wasn't convinced. Amanda was cunning, and she had no limits. That night, I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her smirking face, that self-satisfied look she wore when she thought she had the upper hand. But sometime around 3 a.m., something inside me shifted. I realized I couldn't keep reacting. I couldn't keep cleaning up her messes, defending myself, hoping people would see through her lies. I had to change the game. If she wanted to play dirty, I'd play smart. Quietly, carefully, methodically. For the first time since this started, I wasn't thinking about damage control. I was thinking about strategy. I opened a new folder on my laptop and titled it Restoration. Inside, I started saving everything: screenshots, call logs, emails, bank records, old text messages, Facebook posts. the fake flyers I'd torn down. I documented every lie, every manipulation, every step of her smear campaign. Because this time, I wasn't just going to survive it. I was going to end it, cleanly, decisively, and without a single raised voice. But first, I had to rebuild what she'd broken. And that meant starting at the very bottom, alone, bruised, but not beaten. What I didn't know then was that Amanda was already one step ahead, and her next move would make everything I'd lost so far look like nothing. The first few weeks of what I now call the rebuild were the hardest. I was running on empty, emotionally, mentally, and professionally. My firm had lost clients. My name had been dragged through the mud, and my trust in people was about as stable as a house of cards. But there's something about hitting rock bottom that strips away hesitation. There's no image left to protect, no illusion left to maintain. All that's left is quiet determination. I stopped trying to fix how people saw me and started focusing on what I could prove. My lawyer and I filed a formal complaint with the authorities, attaching every piece of evidence I'd been collecting since Iceland. The fake emails, the domain registration, the flyers, the screenshots, the fake reviews. He also suggested something that would later become my biggest turning point. Rebuild your online presence, Ethan. Don't run from it. Replace the lies with truth. At first, I resisted. The idea of stepping back into the public, I made my skin crawl. But I knew he was right. So I started small, an official statement on my company's new verified website, explaining the situation in calm, factual language. No accusations, no anger, just the truth. Then, something unexpected happened. A few of my old clients, the ones who'd quietly stepped back, reached out. They'd seen the statement, and more importantly, they'd heard from others that my story was starting to check out. One of them, a developer named Brian who'd worked with me for years, called and said, "You know, I never believed that crap. I just didn't want to get dragged into it. But I'm glad you're fighting back. You're a good guy, Ethan. Don't let them break you." That call hit me harder than I expected. It reminded me that not everyone bought into Amanda's narrative. Some people were just waiting to see if I'd stand up or stay silent. So I stood up. I launched a transparency campaign for my firm. Every project, every invoice, every donation we'd ever made, all of it, available for public viewing. We set up a charity partnership with an actual verified nonprofit, this time supporting architecture scholarships for underprivileged students. For every new client, a percentage of profits went directly there. It wasn't damage control anymore. It was reinvention. Within 2 months, word started to spread, not through gossip, but through reputation. Clients began returning, one by one. A few even said my honesty made them respect me more. "It's rare to see someone handle chaos with grace," one said during a meeting. I smiled, though inside I knew it wasn't grace. It was exhaustion turned into focus. But what really surprised me was who called next. A major construction firm, one I'd been trying to get a meeting with for years, reached out through a mutual connection. They'd heard about my situation, done their own research, and liked how I handled it. "We want to work with someone who can survive fire," their representative said. The irony wasn't lost on me. My sister had tried to burn my career down, and instead, she'd tempered it. The deal we closed with that firm was bigger than anything I'd ever landed before. 7 figures. The kind of partnership that could change everything. When I signed the contract, I remember sitting in my office afterward, the hum of the city outside my window, feeling something I hadn't felt in months: pride. Not the loud, showy kind. The quiet kind that hums in your chest when you realize you rebuilt something better than what you lost. But success has a way of attracting echoes of the past. Amanda found out about the deal within a week. I don't know how. Maybe Mom told her, maybe she still stalked my old associates. But I knew the moment she found out, because the calls started again. First Mom, then Amanda herself. "Ethan, we need to talk," Mom said in her first voicemail. "I think this has gone on long enough." I didn't reply. Then Amanda texted me directly. "I heard about your big deal. Congratulations. Maybe now you can finally make things right with the family." I stared at that message for a long time. Make things right. That was her version of admit you were wrong to defend yourself. I didn't reply. I didn't delete it either. I just saved it. Another piece of evidence, another reminder of how little she'd changed. Instead of responding, I poured myself into my work. The new project took off like wildfire, and for the first time in years, my team started expanding. I hired new designers, rebuilt our brand identity, launched a mentorship program for young architects. All ideas that had been sitting in my notebook for years, gathering dust while I put out family fires. Now, I finally had the freedom to build without looking over my shoulder. And life, slowly, began to look like life again. I started jogging in the mornings, something I hadn't done since college. I reconnected with a few friends I'd pushed away when things got bad. We'd grab coffee on Sundays, talk about everything except family. It felt normal. Then, one day, while organizing files for the new firm website, I came across an old photo, the one from that lake trip with Amanda and Mom. I almost closed it, but something stopped me. I looked closer. In the background, I noticed something small, Dad sitting under a tree, watching us play, smiling faintly. I realized then that not everything about my family was poisoned. There had been moments of good, quiet ones, small ones, that had just been buried under years of guilt and manipulation. So, when Dad finally called me again a few weeks later, I answered. He sounded older, softer. "Hey son, I saw your new project in the paper. Looks like things are turning around." "They are," I said carefully. "It's been a process." "I'm proud of you," he said, and I could hear it. The sincerity that had been missing for so long. "I know your mother and sister, they've made things hard. I just didn't know how to handle it." "I know, Dad," I said quietly. "You were trying to keep peace." "I get it." We talked for a while. Not about Amanda, not about the fight, just life. Work, the weather, his garden. It was simple, almost healing. Before hanging up, he said, "You don't owe anyone anything, Ethan. You've earned your peace." That line stayed with me for days. By spring, the noise around the scandal had faded. The fake reviews had been taken down, the local gossip pages had moved on to some other drama, and Amanda's Facebook crusade had gone eerily silent. My lawyer said she'd probably realized that pushing further could actually backfire legally now that my firm was back in good standing. For the first time in years, I wasn't living in reaction. I was planning again. I even bought a small cabin outside the city, nothing fancy, just quiet. A place to think, to write, to disconnect when the world got too loud. Sometimes I drive there on weekends, sit on the porch with coffee, and let the silence fill the space that used to be chaos. And in that stillness, something unexpected grew. Not resentment, not revenge, but clarity. See, I'd spent so long trying to prove my worth to people who thrived on diminishing it, that I'd forgotten what it felt like to define myself for me. Every lie Amanda spread, every cruel word Mom threw my way, had forced me to rebuild not just my career, but my entire sense of self. And I'd built it stronger this time. Still, there was one thing I hadn't done yet. One conversation I'd been avoiding. I knew it was coming eventually, and I knew it wouldn't be pleasant. It came one afternoon in June. I was at the office when my secretary buzzed me. "Ethan, there's a woman here asking to see you. She says it's urgent." I didn't need her to say the name. I already knew. "Amanda." I told her to send her in. She walked into my office like she owned it, sunglasses on, holding her phone like a prop. Her expression was unreadable, half defensive, half entitled. "Wow," she said, looking around. "Nice place. Guess business is booming again." I didn't offer her a seat. "What do you want, Amanda?" She gave a fake laugh. "Straight to the point, huh? You always were uptight." I said nothing. She sighed and finally dropped the act. "Look, things got out of hand. Maybe I pushed too far. But you've made your point, okay? Everyone's on your side now. You win. Can't we just move on?" I studied her face. The arrogance was still there, just hiding under a thin layer of faux humility. "I'm not interested in winning," I said calmly. "I just wanted you to stop." "Well, I have," she said quickly. "Mom's miserable. Dad barely talks to her. The girls ask why Uncle Ethan doesn't visit anymore. Everyone's tired of this. Let's just reset." "Reset?" I repeated. "After everything you did?" She rolled her eyes. "Oh, come on. Don't act like some saint. You've humiliated me enough. You could have handled it privately, but no. You had to go legal, go public, ruin my reputation." I almost laughed at that, the audacity of it. "Your reputation?" I said quietly. "You tried to destroy my life. You impersonated me, spread lies, and dragged innocent people into it. And now you want to reset because it's inconvenient for you." Her jaw tightened. "So that's it then? You're cutting us off for good." "I already did," I said. "You just didn't notice." For a second, something flickered across her face. Anger, maybe fear. Then she smirked. "You think you've escaped the family, But you haven't. You'll see. Mom always said. I know what Mom said, I interrupted. But here's what I say, we're done. Her mouth opened like she wanted to argue, but I gestured toward the door. Goodbye, Amanda. She stood there for a long moment, eyes darting between me and the door, like she couldn't believe I actually meant it. Then, without another word, she turned and walked out. When the door closed, I exhaled slowly, like I'd been holding that breath for years. It wasn't the end. I knew that. People like Amanda don't just disappear quietly. But for the first time, I wasn't scared of what she might do next. Because I wasn't the same man she'd been toying with for years. And she had no idea that while I'd been rebuilding, I'd also been preparing. Because her plan, the one she'd whispered to Mom about, was still in motion. I could feel it. And soon, I'd find out exactly what it was. 2 days after Amanda's visit, my lawyer called me in for a routine follow-up. We were reviewing the final stages of a settlement request I'd filed against the fake domain registrar, just to close that chapter officially. The meeting was calm, uneventful, until he slid a manila folder across his desk and said, "You might want to see this." Inside was a printout of an anonymous complaint filed to the State Architecture Licensing Board. It accused me of falsifying charitable deductions to inflate business expenses and unethical financial practices under the guise of community outreach. The exact phrasing sounded eerily familiar. I looked up slowly. This came in last week? He nodded. It's unsigned, but they included copies of financial statements. Altered ones, clearly. Look here. He pointed to a few figures on the page. These don't match your actual filings, but whoever did this used the real letterhead from your firm and, get this, forged your accountant's signature. A cold, familiar fury started building in my chest. I didn't even have to guess who was behind it. Amanda's plan. She tried to turn the fake charity scheme into something official, a complaint that could jeopardize my license. If the board took it seriously, they could open an investigation, which would freeze all my upcoming projects and contracts. Even if I proved my innocence, it would take months. Months of lost business. Months of headlines. Months of her winning. Can they prove it's fake? I asked quietly. They will, my lawyer said. We've already notified the board and sent authenticated financial records. But whoever submitted this went to great lengths. This wasn't amateur. They had access to internal forms, client invoice formats, even your digital signature. I stared at the papers in disbelief. She must have had help. He hesitated. We suspect she might have gotten into your emails. That night, I stayed in the office long after everyone else left. I went through my email history, checking login activity and IPs. And sure enough, there it was. Multiple logins from an unrecognized device, weeks before the fake emails had started. I checked the city. My blood turned to ice. It was from my parents' hometown. Amanda had been using Mom's Wi-Fi. I sat back in my chair and let the weight of it settle. She wasn't done. She was escalating. Again. But this time, I wasn't going to call her. I wasn't going to argue or beg or warn. I was going to collect. Because now I wasn't just the victim of family manipulation. I was the target of a calculated attack. And legally, that changed everything. So I got to work. The next morning, I contacted a cybersecurity consultant. A quiet professional, mid-40s, unshakably calm, with the demeanor of someone who'd seen every kind of digital mess imaginable. His name was Kevin. He listened to my story without interrupting, then simply said, "Give me full access to your systems. I'll trace it." Within 3 days, Kevin had a full report. He found not only the unauthorized logins, but also evidence that a data-sharing link had been created from my email account to an external drive, a drive registered under Amanda's name. She hadn't just peeked at my emails, she'd stolen documents. And not just random ones. He showed me a list, financial reports, contract templates, tax returns, even internal company memos. She was gathering material, Kevin said. Probably cherry-picking anything that could look suspicious if taken out of context. I rubbed my temples. Can we prove it's her? He smiled faintly. Already did. The external drive was linked to her personal Google account. She didn't even bother to mask it. Everything leads straight to her. That was the moment something inside me shifted again, not with anger, but precision. Amanda had overplayed her hand. For the first time since this nightmare started, I had something solid, not just emotional evidence, but legal ammunition. Kevin helped me compile a digital dossier, timestamps, file transfers, login histories, IP matches, and screenshots. My lawyer reviewed it all and said, "Ethan, this is airtight. With this, we can pursue criminal charges for identity theft, fraud, and cyber intrusion." I didn't answer immediately, because while I wanted justice, I also wanted something more, something cleaner, quieter, more satisfying than courtrooms and paperwork. I wanted her to feel the same helplessness she'd forced on me. And to do that, I needed to play the long game. So I waited. While my lawyer prepared the documents, I made my own plans, parallel ones. I had to think like her, emotional, impulsive, entitled. Amanda thrived on control. She needed to be in the center of every story, every room, every tragedy she created. The moment she felt ignored or irrelevant, she panicked. So I was going to give her silence. Absolute, strategic silence. I didn't respond to her texts. I didn't take her bait when she left a snide voicemail about forgiving me someday. I even stopped mentioning her name to anyone, even my dad. For 2 months, I disappeared from her world completely. And like clockwork, she started unraveling. It started small. My niece texted me again, from a friend's phone this time, saying her mom had been losing it lately, complaining that I was pretending to be the victim and turning everyone against her. Then, one afternoon, I got an email from one of Amanda's old friends, someone she'd bragged to online about her plan. The email was short. "I don't know what's going on between you two, but she's been showing people proof that you committed fraud. It looks fake, and honestly, she's going too far. Thought you should know." Attached were screenshots, blurry PDFs of doctored spreadsheets, and fake receipts, all clearly manipulated. And one photo that made my stomach turn. It was of me, or rather, a photo she had taken years ago at a family barbecue. Cropped, edited, and captioned, "Some people look successful on the outside, but lies always surface." She'd been circulating it in private Facebook groups. It was disgusting, but it also told me one thing. She was desperate. She wanted attention again. She wanted a reaction. Instead, she got the opposite. I let her noise echo into nothing. I kept working, growing, rebuilding. And quietly, I was gathering the last piece I needed, leverage. One morning, my accountant called with something interesting. "Ethan," he said, "I just got a weird alert. Your sister's been trying to access your financial portal. She used your mother's info as verification." That was it. The final thread connecting her to a concrete crime. Attempted access to a private financial account. With that, everything snapped into focus. I called my lawyer and said, "It's time." We filed a cease and desist and a criminal complaint simultaneously, one for civil liability, one for prosecution. But before serving her, I decided to do something my lawyer didn't advise. I met with a journalist. Not one of the gossip blog types who'd fueled the scandal before. A serious investigative reporter, someone who'd built a reputation on uncovering financial fraud. I told her everything, not as a smear piece, but as a documented case study of how personal vendettas can weaponize misinformation. She listened carefully, asked for proof, and I provided it. Every file, every screenshot, every timestamp. "I'm not asking for sympathy," I said. "I just want the truth to exist somewhere besides my hard drive." She smiled. "Then let's make sure it does." Over the next month, she worked quietly, verifying every fact, interviewing neutral sources, building a full timeline. Meanwhile, Amanda was oblivious, still convinced she was the one with the upper hand. And then, the first domino fell. Kevin, the cybersecurity specialist, discovered something else while reviewing her activity logs. She'd used the same fake domain to apply for a small business loan in my firm's name. It had been denied due to inconsistent records, but the attempt was still traceable. That meant attempted fraud at a federal level. The moment I saw that email, I realized I no longer needed to fight from the defensive. I wasn't the cornered one anymore. I was the one holding the matchbook. All that was left was timing. My lawyer advised patience, to let the legal process unfold quietly. But I had another idea. A way to let her trap herself in the exact web she'd spun for me. Because Amanda loved attention. And what better bait than the one thing she couldn't resist? A spotlight. So, while she was busy gossiping online and pretending everything was fine, I set my plan in motion. The article would go live soon, but I didn't tell her that. I simply arranged one final family meeting, something that hadn't happened in nearly a year. I invited Mom, Dad, and yes, even Amanda, all under the pretense of discussing the future of the family's finances. She'd come, of course. She'd never miss a chance to grandstand in front of an audience. And when she did, everything, every lie, every scheme, every stolen file, would finally come crashing down. Because by then, she wouldn't just be sitting across from her brother. She'd be sitting across from someone she no longer recognized, someone with every receipt, every witness, and the truth on his side. And she wouldn't see it coming. The family meeting was scheduled for a Sunday afternoon in mid-July. It was the kind of humid day where the air felt heavy enough to taste, fitting, somehow, for what was about to happen. I reserved a private conference room at my firm's downtown office, glass walls overlooking the skyline, clean white marble floors that made every step echo. It wasn't homey. It wasn't warm. It was deliberate. If Amanda wanted a stage, I was going to give her one, but this time, I was the one holding the script. Dad arrived first, quiet and polite as always. He looked uneasy, tugging at the collar of his shirt. "You sure this is necessary, son?" he asked. "Yes," I said simply. "It's time everything's out in the open." Then came Mom, arms crossed, lips pursed like she'd been dragged to a court hearing. She didn't greet me, just muttered, "You could have hosted this at home instead of some fancy office." "Home doesn't feel very neutral," I replied, not looking up from my notes. Finally, Amanda walked in 10 minutes late, loud, confident, and every bit the actress she believed herself to be. She wore oversized sunglasses despite being indoors, her phone in hand, tapping away like she was bored already. "Well," she said, setting her bag down, "let's get this over with." I gestured for her to sit. "We will." As she settled in, I glanced at my watch. Right on schedule. My lawyer was waiting in the next room, ready to step in when the moment came. The journalist, discreetly informed, had also been given permission to attend remotely through an encrypted link. Not visible, not audible, but recording. For the first few minutes, I let them talk. Mom started, of course, with her usual passive-aggressive sighs. "Ethan, I hope this is about reconciliation, not another one of your crusades." I didn't answer immediately. Instead, I opened a folder and slid 3 sheets across the table. "These," I said calmly, "are copies of the financial documents Amanda forged using my company's name. You'll notice they include my accountant's signature, which was stolen from an internal file." Amanda's face didn't even twitch. "Oh, please," she said, laughing softly. "You're really doing this? Dragging family into business drama again? I already told you, I didn't make those." I tilted my head. "Then you might want to explain why the documents were uploaded from your Google Drive account." That got her attention. Her smirk faltered. "What?" I pressed a button on the table, and the projector behind me flickered to life, displaying Kevin's full digital trace, file names, timestamps, IP addresses, and the device ID linked to her laptop. Amanda blinked, visibly thrown off. "That's fake. You probably had someone set that up." "Cybersecurity firms don't fake metadata," I said evenly. "And, Amanda, you might want to know something. What you did wasn't just unethical. It was criminal. Identity theft, document forgery, unauthorized data access, attempted financial fraud, all verified." Mom snapped her head toward me. "You're not seriously threatening your sister with jail time." "I'm not threatening her," I said quietly. "I'm presenting facts." Amanda's voice cracked slightly, that sharp edge of arrogance starting to chip. "You wouldn't dare press charges. You wouldn't ruin your own family like that." I leaned back in my chair, folded my hands, and smiled. Small, calm, patient. "Amanda, you've already done that for me." For a second, silence filled the room. You could hear the hum of the air conditioning and the faint city sounds outside. Then I continued, voice steady. "I've spent the last year cleaning up your chaos. The fake charity scam, the review attacks, the flyers, the online defamation, the forged complaints to the licensing board. You made sure everyone saw me as a monster, and I stayed quiet because I thought maybe, there was a sliver of humanity left in you." I paused, letting the words hang. "But then you broke into my accounts. You tried to steal my identity. You almost destroyed the company I built from nothing. And now," I opened the second folder, "you're about to find out what accountability feels like." Her eyes narrowed. "What's that supposed to mean?" I slid the paper across the table. It was an official letter, stamped, dated, signed. A court summons. She froze. "You're suing me?" "Not exactly," I said. The district attorney's office is. She stood up, voice shaking. You can't do this. You can't. I'm your sister. I met her gaze calmly. And you're a criminal who thought family made her untouchable. Mom jumped to her feet. Ethan, this has gone too far. She's your blood. You can't send your own sister to prison. I turned toward her. Mom, you made a choice a long time ago. You raised one child who thought consequences were optional, and another who thought love meant silence. I'm done being silent. Dad hadn't moved. He just sat there, staring at the documents. His voice was quiet but firm. Amanda, did you really do all this? She turned to him, desperate. Dad, he's lying. He's turning everyone against me. But Dad didn't respond. He just sighed, shaking his head slowly, like he'd aged 10 years in 1 minute. Ethan, he said softly, what happens next? I nodded to the door. My lawyer entered, carrying a briefcase. Amanda's face went white. Ms. Lewis, he said formally, you've been served. You'll receive full disclosure of the charges and evidence within 48 hours. Amanda's chair scraped violently against the floor as she stood. You're all insane, she shouted, pointing at me. You think this makes you look strong? It makes you a monster. You'll regret this. I didn't rise. I didn't even flinch. I already regretted every time I forgave you, I said quietly. This isn't revenge, Amanda. It's closure. She grabbed her bag and stormed out, slamming the glass door so hard the walls trembled. For a moment, no one said anything. Mom looked at me with tears in her eyes, not from remorse, but fury. I hope you can live with yourself, she hissed. I looked right back. I already am. She left after Amanda, muttering something about family betrayal. Dad stayed. For a long while, he didn't speak. Then he said, she brought this on herself. I know, I said. He nodded, stood up slowly, and placed a hand on my shoulder. Proud of you, son. When he left, the room felt quiet again, but not empty this time. Just clean. After they were gone, I turned off the projector, gathered my papers, and exhaled. My lawyer smiled slightly. That was surgical, he said. It wasn't easy, I admitted. But it was necessary. He nodded. You handled it well. Now comes the follow-through. Stay calm, stay factual, let the evidence speak. And that's exactly what I did. Over the next month, things unfolded exactly as planned. The charges became public, not because I leaked them, but because the journalist who'd been quietly documenting everything finally published her story. The headline was simple but powerful. When family turns fraudulent, how one man reclaimed his name. It wasn't sensational. It was factual, detailed, and damning, complete with court-verified documents, forensic data, and a timeline of events. The public response was immediate. The same forums that had once vilified me now turned on Amanda. Her fake charity scam, her forged files, her defamation attempts, it all came out. Screenshots, messages, emails, all laid bare. The comments flooded in. Can't believe someone would do this to their own brother. She should be ashamed. Ethan handled this with class. I didn't reply to a single one. I just watched quietly as the truth spread, finally louder than her lies. A week later, my lawyer called again. They've decided to pursue a plea deal. If she cooperates and pays restitution, she'll avoid jail time, but will be on probation for several years. I thought about it for a long time. Then I said, let her. I don't need her behind bars. I just need her out of my life. The court accepted the deal. Amanda was ordered to pay damages, issue a formal apology, which she never actually delivered in person, and complete community service at a local shelter. For the first time, her manipulative charm didn't work. The judge saw right through it. When it was over, I didn't feel triumphant. Just still, peaceful almost. But the real revenge, the quiet, poetic kind, came a few weeks later. My firm received an anonymous donation, a large one. 6 figures. No name attached, but the routing information came from a trust linked to an account I recognized, one my parents had opened years ago in Amanda's name. I never said a word to anyone about it. I just smiled, closed my laptop, and walked to the window of my office, watching the sun set over the city. The same skyline that once felt heavy now looked golden. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was surviving my family. I felt free from them. And as the light faded across the glass, I realized something else. Amanda had spent her whole life trying to make me small enough to need her approval. But in trying to destroy me, she'd given me everything I needed to outgrow her entirely. And that I thought, was the sweetest revenge of all. Fallout came slower than I expected. It didn't hit like a storm. No thunder, no flash. It crept in quietly, one ripple at a time, until the whole surface of our family's life changed shape. The first wave hit Amanda, of course. Her plea deal went through the following month, but she couldn't accept defeat gracefully. Even after the sentencing, she tried to twist it, told neighbors it was a misunderstanding, claimed she was tricked by her lawyer, and that she only agreed to restitution to keep the peace. But this time, no one believed her. Her reputation, the thing she'd weaponized for years, was gone. Parents at her kids' school whispered when she passed by. The PDA she used to boss around quietly removed her from their mailing list. Her social media pages, once full of perfectly filtered posts and single mom hustle hashtags, turned into graveyards of defensive rants and pity quotes about fake people who pretend to be saints. People stopped commenting. Then they stopped liking. Then they stopped looking. She'd built her world on attention, and when that vanished, she started unraveling. I didn't see it firsthand. I didn't want to. But I heard enough. My niece, the older one, messaged me one night in September. She said her mom had started drinking more, sleeping less, and blaming everyone for her problems. She still says you ruined her life, she wrote. But I know that's not true. I told her she didn't need to pick sides. But she just replied, I already did. It broke my heart and healed it at the same time. The second wave hit my mother. When the story broke publicly, she refused to read it at first, claimed it was biased, that journalists were out to make money off family pain. But people in her social circle read it. Church friends, neighbors, even her bridge group. At first, they pitted her. Then they started asking questions. Hard questions. How could your daughter do something like that? Did you know? Why didn't you stop her? And for the first time, my mother couldn't deflect. She'd built her own identity around being the martyr, the mother of two children who just didn't get along, always the victim of their disputes. But now the truth was public. It wasn't sibling drama anymore. It was documented manipulation, criminal charges, and her silence through it all. She called me once, the first time in months, her voice tight and brittle. I hope you're happy, she said. You've destroyed your sister's life. I let her finish, then said quietly, No, Mom. She destroyed it herself. I just stopped covering for her. She didn't answer, just hung up. After that, we didn't speak again. Dad, though, he reached out more. Maybe because he finally saw things clearly, or maybe because he'd been carrying his own guilt all along. He started showing up at my office sometimes just to talk. We'd grab coffee, sit in the corner booth, and talk about everything but the past. One day, after a long silence, he said, You know, I kept waiting for her to change. I thought if I stayed out of it, it would calm down. But I think not doing anything made it worse. I nodded. It did. He looked down at his cup, then back at me. You did what I couldn't. You ended it. I didn't say anything, just gave a small nod. Because it wasn't pride I felt. It was exhaustion. The kind that lingers even after the storm is gone. But he was right. I had ended it. By the end of that year, Amanda's financial restitution had been paid. Not directly, but through that anonymous trust I'd traced back to her. The irony wasn't lost on me. She'd spent so long chasing my money that, in the end, she had to use hers to clean up the wreckage. Meanwhile, my firm was thriving. The project I'd landed during the rebuild finished ahead of schedule and under budget. It got picked up by an architectural magazine and ended up winning a regional design award. My name, once dragged through every corner of gossip and slander, now appeared under the headline, From Scandal to Strength, the architect who rebuilt his legacy. I didn't read the full article at first, but one night, I finally did. It ended with a line that stopped me cold. Sometimes integrity isn't loud. It's the quiet choice to stay standing when the people who love you most try to make you fall. I didn't know the writer had kept that quote from one of our interviews, but reading it felt like closing a book I'd been trapped inside for years. Still, even after all the victories, the cleared name, the rebuilt career, the financial security, I couldn't shake one final thought. What happens when your revenge works? What happens when the people who hurt you finally suffer, and you're left with the silence you always wanted? It's peaceful, yes, but it's also strange. I learned something then. Revenge isn't about punishment. It's about freedom. It's not the moment your enemies fall. It's the moment their power over you disappears. And that's what I finally had, freedom. Freedom from the endless phone calls, the guilt trips, The manipulation, the fake apologies, the drama disguised as love. Freedom to wake up without wondering what new disaster my family would bring to my doorstep. Freedom to finally live as my own person, not the responsible son, not the rich brother, not the emotional punching bag everyone expected to stay quiet. In early December, I got an unexpected text from Amanda's younger daughter. Just 3 words. She misses you. I stared at it for a long time. Then I typed back. I hope she learns something from this. The reply came a few minutes later. She won't. But I did. That one, I couldn't ignore. We met a week later at a small cafe. She was quieter now, older than her age in the way some kids get when they've seen too much. We talked for hours, about school, about college plans, about her mom. She didn't ask me to forgive Amanda. She just said she wanted to understand. And at the end, as we stood outside in the cold, she said something I'll never forget. I think Mom thought you were weak because you were kind. But I think that's what made you stronger than her. Then she hugged me. Tight, quick, genuine, and left. When I got home that night, I sat by the fire with a cup of tea and finally felt the last of the anger drain out of me. Not replaced by forgiveness, exactly, just emptiness, in the good way. The kind that leaves room for peace. I didn't check Amanda's social media again. I didn't ask about Mom. I didn't look back. Instead, I looked forward. A few months later, I expanded my firm to a second office, not in the same city, but across the ocean in Reykjavik, Iceland. It felt symbolic. The place where the first spark of my freedom began, now the place where my future grew roots. I still remember that flight, staring out the window, the same cold glow of the northern lights washing across the sky, just like that Christmas Eve when it all started. Except this time, there were no angry texts, no guilt, no weight pressing on my chest. Just silence and peace. As we began to descend, I thought about everything that had led here. The lies, the betrayal, the revenge. How sometimes the people closest to you are the ones who teach you the sharpest lessons. And how walking away from them isn't cruelty, it's survival. When the wheels touched the runway, I smiled faintly and whispered to myself, "Merry Christmas, Amanda." Because the last time I said those words, I was running away. But this time I was home. And that was the real ending. No fireworks, no applause. Just me, free at last, standing in the life I built from the ashes of their chaos. The world outside my window was frozen and quiet, but inside, everything was warm again. For the first time in a very long time, I wasn't waiting for anyone's approval. Not my mother's, not my sister's, not anyone's. I'd stopped being the man who kept the family peace and started being the man who kept his own. And that, I realized, was the ultimate revenge. The kind that doesn't destroy them, it outgrows them.